Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. And let me get this. I got it. That's fine. Can we let the dog that way, please?
I'm not here. Hi, Elizabeth. Can you see
Dena,
me?
how are you?
You can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay, good.
Can you see? I don't see our performer.
She's here. I just haven't admitted her yet. Are you ready to open everything up?
Pardon?
Can you hear me, Elizabeth?
I
Can you hear me? You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
She's here. She's waiting in the waiting room, but I haven't let her in the session.
Okay, one moment, please. One moment. Everything is going. Yes. Thank you for doing this, Dena, and welcome, Bridgette. So your wonderful masterclass.
Here she comes. Let's see. There she is.
Yes, I think this is the first time I'm meeting Bridgette live.
Okay.
Hi. So what I do is that you can do your introduction, and I will mute myself and take my video off.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Okay, here we go. All the best wishes to you. Oh,
Thank
hello,
you.
Nazi. Hello, Bridgette. And good evening to all.
Okay. So hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, Bridget, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let me get a little closer. Bridget, it's so nice to meet you. I think you've been very busy these past few weeks, huh?
Yes.
Well, yeah, you were in Bosnia at a music festival, yeah?
Yes, I was.
Was that the first time you've been there?
Yes, it was my first time in Europe, actually.
And you had a great time, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Bridget, I'm so excited to hear you play. Well, look, my hope is just, to maybe have you run through the piece, and then we'll talk more on the other side of it. And maybe I'll have some ideas that you might try out, or they might be just terrible, Bridget. So we'll just kind of experiment and see how we do here tonight. I'm really grateful that and honored that you've asked to play for me, and just have a really nice time. Okay, I'm gonna turn off my video and turn off my sound, and just so I can focus on everything that you're gonna offer here on Zoom. And you want to announce your piece before you perform it for everyone?
Yes. So I will be playing the second, I believe, movement from Beethoven's Sonata number 18, Opus 31, number 3. It's the scherzo movement.
Brava. Hey, Bridget, I'm going to just work with you a little bit because there's a setting that it's under your sound. I don't even really even know if do you have that setting on? Maybe your teacher audio settings told you about it. Well, anyway, it's under advanced. And then I think it's one of these echo cancellation things. Maybe it should be under aggressive. But what's happened, Bridget, that we couldn't hear every little idea. It was kind of cutting in and out with the great joys of technology. But regardless, let's just talk a little bit because I remember your very wonderful recording that you sent in and that you won this awesome competition with. And it's just hard. I mean, Bridget, it's hard, I think, to have these sort of interpretations of these extremely difficult works that you're playing in such a young age. So I love, from what I can see, like your body posture and your relationship to the instrument is spot on, and your hand position and your shoulder. I mean, I feel like you've had like the best upbringing in the instrument, and I can tell and I can hear that you really love it. Yeah. How tell me a little bit about like your relationship with the piano, your relationship with this piece. Like, how long have you played, and how do you practice? How do you find your life with this instrument?
Well, I did start piano at quite a young age. Even, I think, before preschool, my parents were putting me into these like baby music lessons. And I really started learning the piano around first grade. And now I'm in 12th, so it's been quite a while. I also play the cello as well. I don't know if you can see it a little bit in the back there.
I can see it now that you pointed out. I can see it. So you play the cello as well. That's so awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me, that's exciting. You've been playing piano your whole life and cello later after probably what? You were 9 or 10? Did you start it as an instrument in school, cello?
No, I also started cello as an extracurricular.
Cello is an extracurricular. Oh, you're so awesome. And then how do you come to the instrument your practice time? So Bridgette, you're in 12th grade?
5 participants. Me, Dena Jones. And she's not following us down.
Hi Ruth. Hi Ruth. Could you put, there we go. Okay. Yeah, tell me about how you go to your instrument when you get to go to the piano instrument.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? Could you repeat the question?
Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Hello, Bridgette. Is there any way you can turn your microphone up? I mean, I can hear you. I'm just I'm leaning in really close from the camera on my computer to be able to, my speaker to be able to hear you.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Okay.
Much
Could
better.
Okay.
Much better. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Could you repeat the previous question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know a little bit about how you come to the piano. How do you feel when you come to practice? Do you have like a routine?
I honestly don't have much of a routine. I sort of just pick the pieces I want to practice in my head, and then I'll get to them when I get to them.
And then you'll go through your work and then you have your lesson with your teacher and you advance that way. I think that's how most of us do it, right? The reason I'm asking, Bridgette, is because I think you've played the piano so long and that you're so amazing at the instrument. I'm here today to try and encourage you to experiment more now. Yes, you want to do everything that your teacher gives you. Yeah. The ideas that she gives you. You want to, practice for whatever it is you're practicing for live performance. But I personally feel like I think right about this age, and because you've been at it like a long time, that it's good for you to start to experiment with your own interpretations, so that kind of is going to encourage you to go even further into your thoughts. And I thought, oh, what a great movement of a Beethoven sonata to experiment with, because it's tricky. The scherzo is tricky, the sonata is tricky. Official slow movement. The minuet and trio, which is after the scherzo, is sort of the slow movement, but not a real slow movement. It's 4 movements. It's a big sonata, and it's been deemed the hunt because probably that movement, the first movement maybe, but all of this perpetual motion, this stuff that keeps going on and on. This is in rondo form, right? So you get this same idea over and over again. ba, 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 ba. All of that kind of thing, right? So, Bridgette, tell me a little bit about what you're thinking when you're playing this scherzo. What do all of these little, gosh, there's a ton of markings that Beethoven gives you. What are these markings meaning to you? Besides, I got to learn the notes and the rhythms and all of this, you know? Give me some adjectives of the piece or your ideas as you're trying to play this piece of music.
Right. So the scherzo, my teacher and I agree, is a pretty humorous piece, right? The opening theme is almost like a string quartet, especially I think of the left hand as sort of the cello bass line.
Yeah, I agree. And it's very humorous with all of these forzandos still under the piano umbrella. Yeah. So the other thing that I find is so challenging about this is that it's marked allegretto vivace. So allegretto we should think of in a, you know, in paired with a vivace tempo. That's sort of like a happy skippy tempo with something very fast. It almost doesn't make sense. And then you have these sort of you have sort of these very slow rhythmic movement still in this 2/4 time, right? So, having all said all of that, I want to hear that opening again. And then I want you to try and experiment this time, Bridgette. Score open if you want to. I want to try and hear as you play, and let's just go to the first fermata in measure 19. Let's just experiment there. I just want to see if I can have you exaggerate your thoughts with what Beethoven gives per dynamics and your own thought that you have with this interpretation that you've got a string quartet with the left hand and being the cello, and that it's a humorous piece. I want to see if I can really hear all of it. And it's really hard because it's hard to hear you right now, but really hard to hear on technology is even harder. So let me see if I can really understand what you're trying to say. Okay, Bridgette? Let's try it again. Okay, Bridgette, good. I can hear a little bit. Now, I'm not hearing you 100%, but let me throw this out here. I want to see if you can play that opening at a like 30% less sound so that your piano is going to be even lower. And what is one of the ways that you can get the piano sound even like 30% less sound? Any thoughts on it? Okay, here's a good question. There are 2 ways to get volume or to get dynamic. Yeah, volume. There's 2 ways to dynamic. One way is volume, obviously. I just said it, right? How much weight you drop into the key. But the other way is, do you know what the other way is? It's dynamic. It's speed. So if you have like a full weight into your keyboard down there with all of these, right? If you have a whole strong, even though you're playing less dynamic, if you're attacking really fast, you're going to have a louder sound perhaps than piano. And so if you can get that volume down like 30%, all of your contrasts are going to be a little bit better. And I think it will be a little bit more humorous and a little bit more funny. If it's not so present, maybe. Can we try? Let's see if you can you can think of a slower attack into key, Bridget. Not so, I know it's short and I know that it's fast. Think little, like maybe more boop, 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 like creepy, boop, 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 like jokey, like you mentioned. Brava. How did it feel?
Different.
Was it different? Was it harder?
Yeah, not harder, I'd say, but definitely the sound was different.
Definitely the sound was different. Okay, let's keep working with this idea, interpretation, because you get this theme like a bazillion times in this movement. Let's try now. Can you give a little shape to that left hand? So I think this left hand, although it's fast, it's a lot like it's a lot like with the motion and everything. It could be high. It's even somebody like maybe one of Bach's sons into the room, into the classical period, where there's like a lot of different motion between going up and going down, falling through an arpeggio or following down. Even the repeated notes, Bridget, I wouldn't play them all the same. I probably would drive them forward, like in measure 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 4. This sort of little shapes will make it much more interesting. And if you want to try this slower, Bridget, if you want to this idea slower, maybe we should try it slower. Think more like a bassoon in an orchestra here. Like that they would need more breath to go up octave or more breath to go lower maybe, but up and down the scale, you can let your breath sort of follow the line like it's Mozart. Just try the 10 a little slower and see if you can follow that line. Yes, I love it. And so, this is sort of what I would like to encourage you to do with this movement. And I think with the rest of your pieces, I imagine that you're an extremely fast learner. Your relationship with the instrument is beautiful. And so, Bridget, anytime that you have the chance to, and I think your teacher would tell you, I think experimenting in your practice time by yourself. I mean, I feel like you have to learn the notes and the rhythms and the numbers. Those are the basic fundamentals for any pianist that wants to play any piece of music. And then as you get more advanced, then technique ideas come in. Understand the form of the piece. Do you know how many times the theme comes in this thing? I don't know. 6, maybe, I don't, but that's a good thing. This is, Bridget, what I'm talking about. You can look at your score and listen to some really great pianists. Do you have a favorite pianist these days? Besides your amazing teacher, she's one of my favorite pianists. I like her husband's playing too. He's one of my favorite pianists. But Bridget, do you have any favorite pianists that you listen to these days with the Beethoven sonatas?
My teacher actually did assign me to listen to a couple of pianists,
Yeah.
Arthur Schnabel's recording was my favorite.
Yeah, he's the master with the Beethoven sonatas. There's so many great pianists who have recorded all 32, but just, you know, taking your favorite recording, the one your teacher suggested or whatever, and I'm not a big fan of using recordings like to copy them or to learn from them. I don't like my students to do that. But to at some point I do it myself too. Like I've learned the notes on the page. I've been a good student and I've memorized everything and I've done all those basic fundamentals. And then I start to have these ideas, Bridgette. I start to have these ideas. You know, it's grounded in my knowledge of music history, what I know of the composer and the piece during the time he or she wrote it. And then the other thing that I like to do, Bridgette, is try to make it relevant to myself in today's time. Because what happens, Bridgette, is if you don't dive deeper, a pianist doesn't, and you're ready for this, Bridgette, you're so young. For me, I'm having these sort of talks with my graduate students. And I remember this was sort of a talk I got from my graduate and master's level, was like, okay, you can follow the rules real great, but what does this mean for you? And so I had to start to think, and it's risky, Bridgette, it's so risky because you sort of open up your heart and then experiment and try out these ideas with people. And there's a chance you might miss a note. Who cares? I mean, I think there are more important things in music than being so note accurate. It's always important. When you go for this musicianship, this level of musicianship, they know you're ready to start. So Bridgette, give me some other, I'm sorry the sound is so bad and I'm talking so much and not having you play so much. I hope everything's going okay over there, but have you, on one of these times when you have this main theme, have you had a different thought about it instead of like, oh, here it is again? Is there a sort that the theme when it comes in, it's surprising or it's angry or I don't know, something like this?
You know, I actually haven't thought about that so much, but maybe I definitely should be thinking about it more. Do you have any ideas for what I could do different?
Well, let's experiment. Let's try a little bit, right? Because you play the first time. The first time it's just, you know, piano and it's the theme out of the gate and it's a funny left hand. And so you can show all of those things to your audience, right? And sometimes I have students make up stories, not always. And sometimes it's just it will work, right? But then after the format, you're going to get the same thing, exact same thing, right? Until you get to that F major shocking part. So why don't we try it and let's have you do, even though it's marked, you know, exactly the same. Beethoven doesn't give you anything, so your argument could be, well, I'll just play it the same. He doesn't write anything differently. But I argue that these composers would just expect you to do something different because they want you to be honest. And so let's try the second time angry, just to see what happens to you and your thought process and how you're going to communicate anger through the piano. So first time, happy, light. But the second time, let's think that Beethoven thinks the audience is kind of stupid and that they're not paying attention to him because they're checking their cell phones. And that he wants you to play the second time through to try to get their attention, maybe not necessarily any louder, but with a more persistent knocking on the door kind of approach. Let's try it. I like it. I like it. It's more interesting. What do you think, Bridgette? How's it feel playing it like that?
It feels a little bit sacrilegious, but I like the contrast.
It feels sacrilegious because you feel like you played it maybe it was more like a forte than a piano.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to hear on a computer, but I think that the gist is the whole thing of the whole you know class and because again, I mean, I don't feel like you just play so beautifully, Bridgette. You don't have any technical problems with this, do you? Are there any parts here where you feel like you struggle to play these notes at all? I mean, you can be honest. I would tell my best friend if I had a part that I didn't feel comfortable playing. I'm not your best friend, but you can tell me. Is there a part where you feel like it's just really hard to get through the hands, or you don't feel as confident as you do in other places?
There are a few places that I think could be more solid.
Okay, which parts are they?
When I have this kind of that rhythm in the left hand, sometimes it's hard for me to align the two hands together rhythmically.
Oh gosh, do you have a measure number, Bridgette? It's contrary motion. I'm trying to find it. Where you're talking about? Dee da dee da dee da da da. That thing, that double.
There's one in measure 43.
Yeah, da-da, it's almost like, yeah, it's a 64th note, right? It's like almost like a 32nd. It's almost like a double dotted thing, you know? Yeah, so I don't know, I'm sure your teachers probably told this to you, but I would think of those little left hand thirds. I would think of them all in the same motion, right? So like your hand would be like da-da. Like the motion is this, obviously, da-da. And that you just double bouncing, almost like a snare drum player bounces with a stick. So you're just letting your hand like just hit it two strokes, but on the same large movement, and practice so that right hand comes in on the second one. Can you just try that idea with one of those? Just don't worry about the notes that come before the left hand third. Just start with, it's almost like you want your hands, Bridgette, to go at the same time. Boom. Like you could even practice it that way. Just play the chord in measure 43 for 142, 43. So just play. I'm playing that F and the chord at the same time. And I can even see that it looks like you kind of are like setting, but let me see if I can my hands. Hold on. I don't have a volume with my little side camera, but hold on just a second. Maybe. Hello, get in there. Okay. Okay. Okay, there I am. Okay, could you see the drop motion of the two hands together?
Yes.
Try that yourself, and don't be afraid to come up from a little higher, Bridgette. You'll get more confident the more you drop into that thing. Okay, Bridget. Good. It's higher, but I see a slight hesitation before you get in the key. It's because you're afraid you're gonna hit the wrong note. I don't care if you hit the wrong. Let your weight go all the way in there. Bum, bum, bum. Don't hesitate before you hit the key. Let your arm weight go all the way through. Yeah, it'll be ugly. That's it. Okay, now that's a good start, Bridget, because your weight is falling freely. Yeah. So now all you need to do is keep that and let the left hand start slightly before the right. So you're just gonna go ahead and let the left hand go a little bit before the right hand, but that same motion is still in the hand. How's it feel?
Also a little bit sacrilegious.
Yeah, it's okay because we're experimenting, Bridget. So it's okay. Now, the hard part about that, of course, is to get that same feeling at a piano dynamic and up to speed. Religious part, I'm sure you practice slowly. Yeah, you practice slowly, Bridget. Do you slowly?
Yes. Sorry, your video sort of cut out a little bit.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You do practice slowly, right?
Yes.
So some of these ideas of following the line or technique, I tell my students it's sort of like at first acting like an elephant. These motions are very exaggerated and cumbersome. Like you play really high and bounce, double bounce, and all this kind of idea. I use a lot of sound. Like so, I'm really lucky to play keyboard with the symphony in the percussion section in my town. So I've been playing with orchestra, not as a concerto soloist. I've done that a few times, but I've done more as playing in the percussion section with the keyboard, playing really great works of art. Some of the piano solos are really hard there, and some of them, counting the rests is more difficult than the notes that I play. Sometimes I laugh that I get played by the note that I play because there are not a lot of piano notes compared to like what the cello plays, for example. But one thing that I think playing in the symphony has afforded me, and something that I encourage you to bring to your piano playing, is that I hear those sounds in my ears when I'm trying to play my classical music. I hear bassoon in this, you call it a cello. I hear like a lower than a cello sound in my mind's ear when I'm thinking of this movement because of its ability to do those catch notes with the tongue, right? That kind of sound, that is something that I might try to emulate on the piano. And cello would be, I think that would be such a hard line to play on the cello, right? And the staccato, maybe if you had a bounce on your bow, maybe that's something, but all the maybes and all the perhaps and the idea about this is allowing yourself to experiment with different ideas. And if you go and you listen to these recordings of really great pianists who have recorded this movement in particular, you're going to find out that all of them do something a little bit different if you're really critical about their sound and what they're trying to say. That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think this would be like if you were my student, because you've done such a great job and it sounds amazing. I cannot tell that you have any problems with this piece. I'm amazed. It's amazing. But what I would love to get more from you in your youthful age, is to try experimenting more, Bridgette. And if it goes too far, right? If some people maybe take too much time when in a retardando, or they get a little too self-indulgent with their own interpretation instead of doing exactly what the composer asks. That's what your teacher will tell you. That's what your teachers and probably the whole world. I mean, at some point, you might even feel so strongly about something. Somebody might say, "Oh, that's sacrilege," and you're like, "I don't care. That's how I feel, and that's how I want to play it." Because the message that I am offering is mine, and it's important to me. And you could hear it played the same traditional way by 1,000 other pianists, But what does Bridgette want to say? What does Bridgette feel is important with the Beethoven sonata? And it takes a little more time. It takes a little bit more allowance of trusting yourself, and being fearless. Takes less worry about making anybody upset, and going more with what you think is what the composer and yourself want. Now, Bridgette, I did a lot of talking, and I would like to hear your ideas, because I think the playing of the masterclass is pretty moot at this point. I think I'd like to know more about you. I'd like to help you to get a little more fearless from behind the instrument. Do you have any? I would like to know your thoughts about all this, or about your path in music. Let's just rap a little bit. Don't worry about more. Come closer to your microphone. I think I got the point across, and your teacher's here with us, and you guys can talk about what I said. But tell me more about you, and what kind of music you like, and your friends, and where do you see yourself in 5 years, that kind of thing.
Sure. Actually, I do have one question about what you said about experimenting.
Yes.
Right, because I'm sure you know that Beethoven is very well known for how well he marks his music with dynamics, articulation, and such. And
Yes.
one of the suggestions was to play the recurrence of the first theme more angrily, which usually
Yes.
do by making it louder. But there it's marked softer. So how do you toe the line between playing what you want to play, but also respecting the composer?
That's such a good. So I think in this case, and yes, Beethoven was one to be very, very, I don't know, precise with his markings. Most composers, I think maybe Mozart more. Beethoven used a lot of sketches, very hard to read handwriting. We got all the lectures giving titles to sonatas and stuff. Some of that stuff he didn't even come up with himself, Bridgette. But so I know what you're saying. The fine line. Like I say, I think if you do too much, somebody will tell you it's too much. But I have this experience, even if I think it differently, like I'm going to play it more intent. Maybe I was just using the word angry to try and get something different out of you, Bridgette, to try and pull, like you have all different colors, and not everything is going to be the same piano level, and not everything is going to be the same forte. Not every sforzando is going to be the same. Just because you see an SF on a score, you got to kind of put it in context, right? I always think it's related to the dynamic umbrella that surrounds, so a sforzando and a piano and a fortissimo section. My body's going to react differently. My sound is going to be different. My attack's going to be different. All those, it's such detailed thinking, Bridgette, and it takes you into a whole different realm. So I feel like if I just think these things, I know I'm starting to sound like the Music Man. Have you ever seen the music with Harold Hill, who tells everybody if they think the think system, they can play da 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 da. Do you know that show? I'm sounding like Harold Hill a little bit, but I find like if I think the ideas that they come out and I play them, and whether the audience gets that it's my idea, that would be really amazing if they could read my mind. But they might not get my idea, but they will get that it's different and it's more interesting, it's more layered, it's more active. And this in this case, you know, Beethoven gives it to us so many times. Sometimes the dynamic markings are different, and if different, I sure do bring that out, Bridgette. I don't. I work for those contrasts if the composer gives them, he or she gives the dynamic contrast. I really sometimes I might take a little time where just to give a little effect, you know. And I think composers of all time periods will expect that from a great art. Treatises, Bridgette, you could go and read them all. They're in different languages. You might be interested in, they've been translated. There's some from the Baroque era, from the classical period. There's treatises from the Romantic period. These are all what we call performance practices, where someone has taken the time to write down all the ins and outs of what the people were doing at the time. Beethoven is crossing over into the Romantic period. I think it starts with his Opus 13, the Pathétique for the piano world. I feel like that sonata, although Opus 31 does really remind me of Mozart and Haydn, some of CPE Bach, I feel that Opus 13, where he started, you know, that very slow, grave introduction, people at the time would not have been ready for that at all. So, and he was a very good pianist who liked to improvise a lot. I think he would expect, Bridgette, that you would play the sections differently, though he doesn't give you the dynamic markings. And I feel like you can say that like 99.9% sure, because of the things we know about him as a person and as a composer and of his orchestral works. And, you know, so it's a very good question. And I feel like I hope that I gave a little proof for why you can experiment with Beethoven.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's exciting, Bridgette. This kind of playing is exciting. Are you afraid to try different things from behind the piano?
Sorry, what was the question? Your audio cut out a little bit.
Oh, technology. Are you afraid to try different things? Like in the ritardando, that's in the very opening statement, you might play around with the ritardando. Have you tried?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's great. That's really great because you can do it differently, like even performance. I had a wonderful teacher that she told me when she felt like she was really at her best, and she was fabulous. She was a concert pianist. I was very fortunate to study with her. But she told me when she enjoyed it the most and when she was at her best, it was when she could take more time in a fermata than she was used to, or when she really tried to like really taper the end of a phrase without pulling back any in her tempo, but just like control the sound, like just like really super detailed things. And that when the audience was with her, like she felt like she could do these things and the audience was with her. And I remember hearing her say this at the first time, and I thought, oh my gosh, I feel like I can just barely get from the beginning to the end of a piece as I planned for it to be, let alone trying to like do something soft, the softest it, or the piano will give me the loudest sound, so I'm really gonna go for it and blow my brains out or something, you know. I mean, she was at such a high level that she could do these sort of improvisational things with her playing, and she felt that the audience was really with her, and it was really, really good, exciting playing. Bridgette, can you imagine? I'm not like that. But anyway, let's talk more about you now. I want to know more about you as a pianist and as a person. Do you feel like you can share with me a little bit about you? Are we only Beethoven?
Yeah, sure.
Nice.
Um,
So tell me about Bosnia. Tell me about your performances over there. How was it?
sure. It was great. I was traveling without my parents, so having that freedom for the first time was um, pretty novel, but also very fun.
That's so
Oh, yeah. I played the piano and the cello over there, so it was a lot of repertoire. Um,
it's a ton of time, a ton of preparation, and a ton of time. And were you there for 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah. From
How was the flight?
our first flight actually got delayed. I was traveling with two other of my friends who were also playing piano in the festival.
And so it got delayed?
But we ended up making it there a day after the festival started, but we got caught up.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. And so no difficulty figuring out all the travel stuff, huh? Good. Do you think you'll go back next year?
I would love to, but I'd also like to try other music festivals as well, see what's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're eye-opening, right? For the cultural thing and meeting new people and pushing yourself to be at the highest level that you can be. And what do you think about the European audience? Did you see any cell phones out when the performance was going on?
Yes, a few, but
A few.
but it is what it is.
Yeah, I feel like a European audience is a little bit more, it's maybe not fair that I sound so stereotypical. I mean, everybody's different, everybody's individual, but with the music experiences that I've had in Europe and the ones that I've had in the United States, I just feel like the European audiences get us a little, it's just maybe classical music's been around so long. There's an etiquette that seems to be followed, but definitely a different experience playing the performance venues over there, right? Where did you play?
A lot of our performances were outdoors, so the acoustics, figuring them out was quite tricky. Usually they were amplified with microphones and speakers, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of outdoor venues. We had two indoor venues. One of them was a sort of more traditional theater, but the acoustics in there were quite dry. Pretty good though. And the second was actually a museum, and the acoustics in there were extremely wet. So both of the venues were kind of polar opposites of each other.
That's a good challenge, right? That's a good challenge. And then the instruments outside, I mean, do they have a piano outside or was it like a digital keyboard?
Yes, they had a piano. They had teams of piano movers and tuners kind of coming to every concert.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. And were they well attended?
For the most part. Sometimes the top registers of the pianos got a little bit out of tune with every concert, but yeah.
Bridgette, did you play any chamber music from piano?
Not from piano, but from cello, yes.
Nice. Ah, Bridgette. Well, look, Bridgette, I'm wishing you all the best. I mean, I don't know. I want this question, like, are you going to continue with piano? Do you see this are you going to make a living out of playing this 88 key monster? Are you headed towards college? What's your dream with this instrument that you can play these amazingly difficult works on? I mean, you're just a stunning pianist. What's going to happen with you, Bridgette?
So I decided that I'm not going to pursue music totally for my career, but I'm definitely going to keep it in my life. Maybe make some money as a music tutor on the side and
Yeah.
play in community orchestras, that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's so good to hear. That's so good to hear. Yeah, I supported myself a lot. Well, I was studying to make it a career, so I was always on the thing. But church jobs, I taught students, beginner students. I played musical theater. I met so many people. I traveled to so many places before I became the quote unquote, professional thing. It's just everybody needs a pianist. We're lucky that way, Bridgette. Everybody always needs a pianist. But what are your other passions? What are you going to study besides, keeping music in your life? What's your thing?
I have a lot of different interests. I mean, I like ceramics a lot. I like pottery, but I don't think I'm going to be a potter for a living either. I also like sort of techie stuff, I guess you would say, but not entirely like hardcore coding either. I'm sort of into the sociology aspect of it, like how tech impacts society, that sort of stuff.
Bridgette, I'm connecting with you a lot because I have a 17-year-old son who's getting ready to apply for colleges, and he's so stressed out of his mind right now. But he's thinking computer science. He likes light coding, and he also likes to do audio video computer work. He's very good at it, Bridgette. So and it's very hard to get into these colleges because a lot of people want to study this. But I'm getting ready to go to Spain in like 2 weeks for an AI conference, communication studies, and I'm going to tell everybody about music as a means of communication. So I've gone completely experimenting here, Bridgette, with using music of a composer that I specialize in to go talk to. I think I'm the only musician at the conference. It's a 3-day thing, and it's bringing people from all over the world, and it's also online. It's face to face and all this techie stuff. But I'm interested in this kind of thing, and it's in my area of interest is Spain. So I'm going over there, and I'm going to play recordings of myself because they don't have pianos available for me. And so I've never given one of these lecture recitals. I give them frequently, Bridgette, about talking, sociology, music, history, playing, all this kind of thing. But I've always played myself. This time I'm gonna be playing the play on my laptop is what I'm playing. So I'm a little nervous. Just yeah, I'm wishing you all the best, and just your little reminder that getting out of that box is a good thing. All right. Well, Bridgette, do you have any other questions for me or any other comments that you want to throw out here tonight?
I did have one comment, but it's kind of it's a side comment, really not super pertaining to Beethoven. But I am doing an AI project that's related to music, where I am sort of training an AI model to produce accompaniment for melodies that I feed it, and I'm gonna try to measure it against existing composers and see if it can perform as well. So
Oh my gosh, that sounds super interesting. I'm curious to see how the AI live up.
yes,
Will you let me know how it all turns out?
sure.
It sounds pretty. I mean, I'm kind of scared at the same time. They used to have these pianos that would play themselves, and everybody thought that our pianist world would go bye-bye, and it didn't, thank God, right? But I don't know. Yeah, Bridget, I've heard people's voices. Like you can do voice, you feed the computer enough information that it can, it can simulate somebody's voice. And you are going to do a project to see if it will simulate or make accompaniments that are as good as the live composers. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. I'm kind of scared of the results, but I need to know them, Bridget. Okay. So when your project is over, send me a little email. I want to know who you think sounds best, the AI or the composers.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think for tonight, this will be the conclusion of our masterclass. Bridget won the first place in I think it was is it the junior division? Is that what they're calling it?
Yes.
What did I have? Young artist division, not the junior division, the young artist division. And Bridget, you're there in California, yeah? In Sacramento?
Correct.
Yeah. So it was my pleasure to work. I don't know if anybody else wants to come online and say anything, Elizabeth or Dr. Fukasawa, if anybody wants to chime in, and Alice, it's nice to have you with us too.
Thank you so much for working with Bridget, Dr. Jones.
It's my pleasure.
I was very impressed on how receptive Bridget was. She Natsuki, you have done well. She plays and behaves like a matured, an older kid. Very, very good. I love how reactive you were and can just move with the ideas and that you communicate. Very good.
Yeah, she's very sharp.
Yep. Yes, she is.
Very sharp.
Well, I'm very happy to have this session, and I look forward. We're planning. I'm in the midst of a lot of stuff, so I'm going to be reaching out for recording for just to play for the concert viewers to see the winners, because many people live so far away that it's difficult for students to fly, and it's in the middle of school, Yes. So think of what you would like to play, and I'll get back to you guys. And I would love to thank Dr. Dena very much for
My
taking
pleasure.
the time to do this for us, and Natsuki for presenting an award-winning student as always. Yes. I really appreciate it. And we had one board member who was on, but I think she has disappeared. And
Okay, tell her, Elizabeth, I was glad she joined us.
Yes, I wish you well, Bridgette. For the future, I don't know if Natsuki, you have so many talented ones. I don't know if they're going to take it to the next level for college. We'll see anyhow. Bye, everyone. Good night, and thanks again to everyone.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Thank you, Bridget. Lovely playing. You're gorgeous. Bye.
All right.